2 minutes past 7. So good evening and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's talk, which members will be glad to know is being delivered from the club after a very long time. We do hope before long we will all be able to enjoy these talks at the club. Tonight's speaker is a remarkable lady, Sonia Jabbar, a writer, journalist, photographer, filmmaker, artist, and peace activist. Educated in Calcutta in the United States, she worked in Kashmir as a human rights activist, journalist, photographer, and filmmaker between 1995 to 2010. In 2011, after her mother's untimely demise, she found herself inheriting the Naxalbari tea estate, a 1,200-acre plantation in Darjeeling district. Having to switch horses mid-race, she literally had no choice but to commit fully to her new life. Unable to see the plight of wild elephants in North Bengal who were chased and harassed wherever they went, Sonia decided to help them. From 2012, she transformed her estate into a garden known for quality tea, as well as a veritable sanctuary for the pachyderms. Her work has been recognized in India and abroad by tea connoisseurs and wildlife conservationists alike. In 2018, the Wildlife Trust of India recognized Naxalbari as a Green Corridor champion and partnered with Sonia to create safe passage for elephants in the area. The same year, the University of Montana recognized Naxalbari as the first large elephant-friendly estate in the world. In 2019, she was awarded the Nari Shakti Purashkar, the highest civilian award for women by the President of India at Rashtrapati Bhavan. In 2020, Discovery Channel Canada featured Sonia's work in their biggest and baddest show on the endangered Asian elephant. She lives permanently at the Naxalbari tea estate, but is today here in Calcutta to give us this talk. Before I hand over to her, I'd just like to tell you that you can type your questions in the chat box on your screen, some of which I'll read out to Sonia to respond after the talk. Please keep the questions short and restrict yourselves to one per person. Over to you, Sonia.
Thank you so much, Rajesh. Good evening to you all. And thank you, Rajesh, for inviting me to speak at the Bengal Club. It is indeed a great honor. I've been asked to speak about the endangered Asian elephant and how I have taken some steps to mitigate human-elephant conflict around my tea estate. But before I do, I want to start with giving you some context on where I'm coming from and how I think of the problem. I don't see myself as acting on some benevolent impulse. It's not simply a question of doing good. Let me contextualize my actions for you. Some of you may have heard of the Anthropocene Age. It is an era defined by geologists starting sometime in the 19th century, but intensifying in the mid-20th, where human activity has actually disrupted the Earth's systems globally on an unprecedented scale, causing climate change, biodiversity loss, massive pollution of the air, land, and sea, rapid depletion of soil cover, tropical forest fires on a massive scale, typhoons and cyclones, etc., etc. It's almost as if we are witnessing the not so slow disintegration of the Earth, our once familiar and safe home. Scientists believe we may have crossed the line of no return, that we have trashed our planet for good, that we have sowed the seeds of our own destruction. When we speak of endangered species, have we considered just how endangered the human race is? In 2017, the WHO made a statement. Human beings really are the most important endangered species, because in 2017, it was estimated that 12.6 million deaths a year are due to environmental reasons, lack of clean water, sanitation, or pollution. 2017 was 3 years before the pandemic. By 2020, the coronavirus hit us, and for the first time in modern history, humans have realized just how vulnerable we are as a species. What are the answers? Sit at home, maintain social distancing, take the vaccine. Do you actually believe that vaccines will make the viruses go away? That it can be life as before once we are all immunized? In recent years, we've seen a surge of diseases that we never knew even existed. Chikungunya, Ebola, H1N1, COVID, and now within less than a year, we have its variants. Scientists have linked the destruction of forests and natural ecosystems and encroaching human habitat to the rise of the global COVID pandemic and other such diseases. The scale of destruction is mind-blowing. In 2018 alone, 121,406 square kilometers of tropical rainforests were destroyed. The pandemic is of our own making. In India, between 2000 and 2018, we've lost 16,744 square kilometers, most of which, 70% of which, is in the Northeast, all for mining, infrastructure projects, and for so-called development. And what I'm arguing for is that unless we immediately step up to stop this destruction, we as a species are doomed. Which finally brings me closer to home, where I live in North Bengal, and to explain to you what I do and why I do it. This image looks very pristine because it is part of the 1,200 acres of land that I control. But just outside its boundaries are new highways, flyovers, spurt in shops and buildings and factories that are taking over the once beautiful forests or agricultural land. From my land at Naxalbari Tea Estate, which is a mere 800 feet above sea level, to the third highest mountain in the world, that is Kanchenjunga, at 28,170 feet, is only about 120 kilometers as the crow flies. Crammed into that short distance is the most amazingly diverse ecology, from moist, dense riverine forests to high alpine firs, shrubs, and meadows. Equally, in this very small space is crammed the most amazing number of insects, birds, reptiles, and mammals, including the second largest mammal on Earth, the Asian elephant, which is just a tad smaller than the largest animal on Earth, which is the African elephant. When I arrived here in 2011 after the death of my mother, who ran the property for 30 years, I had little idea that elephants would become such a large part of my life. My struggles at the time was to keep our 130-year-old family property afloat in an industry that was all but sinking. But my story with elephants began in the summer of 2012 rather dramatically. I had just finished my first planting exercise. It was section 6 East, about 35 acres. And because it was my first ever planting, it had taken me a lot of time, money, and effort. One night at around 9:30, just as I was going to bed, my field assistant called to say a herd of around 60 elephants had crossed into our property. Where? I asked. 6 East. My heart sank. 60 elephants? They had broken the fencing and had entered the section. I was beside myself. My field assistant urged me to take action. What shall we do? Shall we chase them out? Do they have young? I asked. Yes. What a dilemma. If I let them stay, they would flatten the section, let loose 60 humans, and see how they destroy young tea. Elephants with their young? I shuddered. But then I imagined the terror of young elephants being chased by men with mashals. They would destroy so much more in their panic. No, I told the assistant. Let's hold off until morning. So at dawn the next day, I dressed hurriedly and walked over to section 6 East. The fencing was down, and I walked the length and breadth of the 35 acres I had planted. I was dumbstruck. Apart from the areca plants we had planted along the avenues, we counted a total of 7 saplings damaged. That is all. It was as if the herd had tiptoed through the section as daintily as a troop of ballerinas. It baffled me. How did they know that they should not trample our tea plants? Were they intelligent enough to figure they needed to tread carefully so that we would not turn hostile to them? How on earth did they control their young, their boisterous babies? It seemed to me at that point that they were offering me a deal, a symbiotic relationship. They would pass through carefully if I offered them unhindered passage. My next encounter with elephants was with an old guy called Budho Dantal or Old Man Tusker. He's a gentle soul who's been visiting us for many years now. I was on a drive around the estate when I saw him for the first time. He was ambling along our main road while this horde of about 50 to 70 armed men chased him, screaming and yelling, throwing bombs and bricks at him. I couldn't believe it. Who were all these people trespassing on my land? Why were they harassing the tusker? Why did he not stand his ground or chase them? One swat of his trunk, and 20 of these rascals would go flying. For about 20 minutes, I chased elephant and mob as best as I could, but was mostly frustrated. And because I was alone, without a phone, and with no help in sight, my frustration at this cruel farce was beyond endurance. But through his ordeal, Old Man Tusker just kept going quietly, patiently, without any sign of anger. But my anger was at bursting point. When at last the elephant I knew would cross a road about 400 meters ahead of me. My best bet was to get between him and the mob, so I shifted into second and accelerated full speed, hurtling towards the elephant. The timing was perfect. No sooner than he crossed that I brought my bolero to a screeching halt in front of the mob. I leapt out onto the footboard and confronted the crowd. Everyone was stunned. The mob that had been shouting a moment ago just gaped and fell silent. Maybe they thought I was insane, but they stopped and then sullenly turned around and dispersed slowly towards their village beyond our border. On the other side, I saw Old Man Tusker disappear slowly down the hill towards the forest. He would be safe and at peace there. What a magnificent creature. Also, a bodhisattva, I reflected. For who else would walk the earth majestically like a Buddha and show infinite patience at the folly of humans? On that day, I vowed to do everything in my power to protect them. Elephants by nature are migratory and require a large area, about 50 to 100 kilometers, to move and forage, as each animal eats around 150 to 200 kgs of green fodder a day. And that includes grasses, vines, jungle fruit, leaves, and green branches. When forests disappear, or when train tracks, highways, and flyovers appear, where do elephants go? In 2012, Nepal built a 17-kilometer long fence along its boundary, less than 10 kilometers away from our estate. It was done to prevent the historic migratory raids of elephants across the Mechi River and safeguard Nepalese farmers and their livelihood. But the fence merely shifted the problem to our farmers and their livelihood. It was with some consternation that I witnessed the fallout. Destruction of their habitat or traditional migratory routes means that elephants have little choice but to eat whatever is at hand. The increasing frequency of elephant movement southward towards us and crop degradation that followed increased human-elephant conflict in our immediate neighborhood. The forest department in our neighborhood began coming under a lot of pressure from local farmers to chase the elephants out of the area. Their role has now changed from guardians of the forest to guardians of humans who live around the forest. Okay, where's the pointer? So there are two small, so here's where we are. That's Naxalbari Tea Estate on the map. And there are two small degraded forests on the east and the west. This is Uttamchandra Chat Forest and this is Tukriya Jhar Forest. So the drives by the forest department usually start at Tukriya Jhar on our west, right here. And then they chase the elephant herds across Naxalbari into Uttamchandra Chat Forest right here on our east. From Uttamchandra Chat, they are then driven to Bagdogra Forest about 12 kilometers away. And this goes off the map, but I hope you all can see it. And then from there, from Bagdogra Forest, they're further driven towards Mahananda Wildlife Sanctuary, or they say they're guided towards Mahananda Wildlife Sanctuary, about 35 kilometers away. But this route is often blocked. So the elephants end up going back and forth between Tukriya Jhar and UCC and Tukriya Jhar, back and forth for months on end.
So
this chasing them.
1 second. Are you showing any slides?
Yes, of course.
No, but so that's why I had to interrupt. It's still showing the cover slide and not anything else.
What are you saying?
Yeah, it's still showing there's an elephant in the room.
I moved to slide 22.
Okay, ma'am, just first just
Hang
stop
on.
the sharing and then share it once again.
1 sec. All right, hold on. I'm so sorry. I wish someone had, that's awful. I'm so sorry, hang on.
That's fine, don't worry too much.
Can you see it at all?
Yes, we now see a map of Naxalbari and
All right, I'm so sorry. So here's the first slide, which you can see. This is the property. Beautiful elephants, a herd of elephants moving down. Sorry, I don't know why this is not working. All right, that's the Anthropocene Age slide. I'm so sorry. And this is the slide which has to go with the human activity that has disrupted.
So Sonia, we're still seeing the same slide. Map of Naxalbari and surrounding environment.
Ma'am, first stop the sharing, please, and then restart it once again.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, where's my... All right, can you see that now?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Janice, can you change the slides for the first 2 or 3 times so that we know that they're
All right.
working?
Can you see this slide where human activity is actually disrupted the Earth system?
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Darwaza band karo.
Can you see that?
Yes.
The garbage?
Yes.
All right. Now that's the evolution of humans or how we are endangered. This is the coronavirus slide. This is the disruption of forest. Are you following me now?
Yes, we can see the slides, but perhaps you could go over these briefly so that what you said.
Yeah. So this is basically this is the unprecedented destruction of forests all over the world. So it's just a slide illustrating the Australian bushfire. And then this is the slide which goes with that basically in the Northeast, in India from 2000 to 2018, we've had over 16,000, nearly 17,000 square kilometers of forests which have been destroyed. And 70% of that is in the Northeast, where I mean, North Bengal, we actually think of ourselves from the Northeast. And this is an image of Naxalbari Tea Estate. Can you see that?
Yes,
yes,
which is very pristine. And what I said was that just beyond this actually is a whole network of highways and flyovers and railway lines and new development and factories and so on and so forth. So even in a beautiful, pristine North Bengal, we have terrible destruction of our environs. Now we've come to the map, which shows just where we are located. As you can see, Naxalbari is very close to the Nepal border. Can you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, and as the crow flies, we are just 120 kilometers from the Kanchenjunga massif, which is 28,000 feet high. So from Naxalbari, which is at 800 feet, to Kanchenjunga at 28,000 feet, you have this amazing geographical area, which has got amazing biodiversity, including the Asian elephant. So this is me in 2011 when my mother passed away, and I was struggling to um, actually deal with keeping Naxalbari afloat. And this is an image of 6 East, and you can see the Darjeeling hills right behind us and the Nepal hills. So we're very, very close to the Nepalese border. This is a herd of elephants coming in, and basically I use this image to illustrate how they came. 60 elephants came to Section 6 East and actually tippy-toed through the whole section. They were there all night and didn't destroy them, didn't destroy it. And that's what got me actually thinking about just how amazingly intelligent and sensitive these animals were, and what were they trying to tell me by not destroying my young tea which I had planted. So actually, this is how young tea looks. It's very fragile, and you can imagine if 60 elephants. I mean, if 60 human beings marched through this area, you would have a lot more destruction. But with the elephants, we just had 7 plants destroyed. And this is an image of Old Man Tusker, who was chased by the mob. And so this was my, um, this particular photograph was taken a couple of years ago, but I had my first encounter with him around 2012, 2013. So here's an image of elephants foraging at the estate, and this is an image of the Nepalese border with um, the fence, the 17-kilometer fence. And the 17-kilometer fence basically meant that now elephants were coming south to us, and a dramatic and can you see me?
Yes.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
was stuck for just a while, but now it's fine.
So great pressure on the forest department that now basically is less guardian of the forests and wildlife and more guardians of human beings against elephants. This is an image of a map. That's where we are. That's Naxalbari Tea Estate, and flanked on either side to our east and west is Tukriya Jhar and Uttam Chandar Chat. And basically, what happens is that the forest department drives these elephants, and then they ping pong back and forth here, getting very, very agitated. So I'll now continue. So this chasing from fragmented forest to fragmented forest only serves to agitate the elephants further, making any human they come across as the enemy that they need to destroy. So here are just some figures that you can take a look. This is in our small range only. It's really very, very sad. So it's in this milieu of increasing cruelty and violence that I first started interventions in 2012 and 2013. I observed the herds, the patterns of movement and behavior of both elephants and humans, and then asked myself whether a non-violent solution was at all possible. So I came up with the idea of starting what I call the Hatisathi program. For those of you who don't know Hindi, it was actually there was a movie in the 70s called Hati Mera Sathi, and we all loved it as children. And so the Hatisathi is basically friend of elephant. And so this program was born. And this was to enable communities to live safely with elephants. So Naxalbari's tea estates Hatisathi program has three key components: the Chokidar program, the Hatisathi Kids Club, and rewilding. I'll just take you through those. So the Chokidar program is we take existing staff and security of the estate, and they are sensitized and trained in crowd control. So first I sensitize them on elephants, and we have continuous, actually the training is continuous. And then they are trained in crowd control. Basically, as I described to you what happened with Old Man Tusker, that was happening a lot. Crowds of people were running into the estate, chasing the elephants in front of them. So basically what we did was we blocked all access points into the estate when there was elephant movement. So groups who collect to harass elephants, curious onlookers, are not allowed entry at all. We've developed an early warning system that alerts all workers to stay off designated elephant routes, and a 400-meter wide corridor is maintained during elephant movement. Where there's no elephant-human contact, human-elephant conflict is minimized. Okay, now this is a very short video clip where you can see how we shut down our main roads. So that's the main road. And here, not 30 to 50 meters away from me, is this huge herd of elephants. And you can see how visibly relaxed they are. And you can see how trusting they are. And here's the other side of the road where all traffic is blocked. Oops, sorry. So did you see the video? Could you see that?
Yes.
All right. Now, I started this Hatisathi Kids Club. It's basically a nature club for the children of our tea estate workers. So we have about 500 permanent workers, and I actually had 130 children sign up for this program. So we have weekly meetings where we learn about the environment, about wildlife, about elephants, about climate change and climate action. And the idea is to enroll them in achieving conservation goals, and also for them to take home the message to adults to have a more compassionate attitude towards nature, including elephants. The children are sensitized through games, films, and talks by visiting conservationists. The existence of the Hatisathi Kids Club has had a direct bearing on the frequency and strength of crowds that collect to harass the herds. So this, I mean, I see it as a great success. The third part of the three-pronged Hatisathi program is Naxalbari Tea Estate's rewilding program. And it envisages the rewilding of around 100 acres of non-tea growing land belonging to the estate. We have so far taken a pilot plot of 10 acres and successfully rewilded it with native species trees, shrubs, and grasses. This is not simply about growing more trees. If you recall, I had mentioned North Bengal being a biodiversity hotspot. So the idea is to mimic a natural forest and see all endemic species populated. By growing natural forests or rewilding, we increase the biodiversity of our land. Um, and this is a project I'm actually very pleased about. We've achieved it this year. So the project also envisions creating water bodies for elephant herds that come in the dry season. With increased forest cover and planting of elephant-friendly trees and grasses, elephants are less dependent on crop raiding. If the rewilding project at Naxalbari is successful, other tea estates can be persuaded to do the same with their marginal land, significantly increasing the habitat of elephants and other species. So all these efforts have paid off. Our estate workers and their children, for the most part, maintain a respectful distance. The atmosphere at Naxalbari Tea Estate is peaceful and welcoming. Elephant herds stay a few hours or even overnight, but pass without damaging houses or harming humans. On the other hand, our immediate neighbors to our east, Azmabad Tea Estate, has had 5 deaths in the last 4 years. The increase in casualties in the area, while Naxalbari Tea Estate has been an oasis of calm since 2012, has made the authorities sit up and take notice. In the summer of 2020, the Naxalbari Panchayat and Forest Department invited us to start a pilot program with 3 villages to our south. My idea was to engage with farmers who are affected by crop depredation in an effort to help them and cool tempers so that elephant and human casualties reduce. It was around the same time that I decided that Naxalbari Tea Estate could not handle the work alone, and so was born the Hatisathi Foundation in 2020 with 3 directors and a bunch of volunteers. We've provided equipment and trained volunteers from each village in early warning systems, crowd control, allowing safe passage to elephants, as well as how to safely prevent elephants from destroying their crops. It's too early to say anything yet, but we can safely say that the first paddy season has passed peacefully without any casualties in any of these villages. And now, finally, I'm going to share this sheer excitement and joy of watching elephants. So I'm just going to play this video for you. Enjoy. Um, so this is the 3 of us at the Hatisathi Foundation. So I have Arithro Shetri with me, who's a young wildlife scientist, and then Prerna Bindra, who's a wildlife conservationist who's done a lot of work on policy and She's at present in Cambridge pursuing her PhD. So the three of us basically run the Hatisathi Foundation, which is actually brand new. And what's ahead is to actually scale up the Naxalbari model and provide training and support to other tea estates in the area. So we form a contiguous belt from Tukriya Jhar all the way about 35 kilometers to Mahananda Wildlife Sanctuary. So it's a safe area of about 100 square kilometers for elephants and humans to coexist peacefully, hopefully. And then also to strengthen our existing programs, particularly with neighboring villages. Oops, what happened here? And introduce crop insurance so that farmers do not have to resort to violence to protect their livelihood. I should put this off. So I'm going to be absolutely shameless. I don't know why this has happened. But goodness.
Ma'am, you stop the sharing of the screen and then restart it once again.
Right.
Well, actually, Sonia, if this is the last screen, then we can still see what's on it.
Yeah. So anyway, but it's a beautiful image of
Yes.
matriarch with a younger elephant and a little calf. So I'm shamelessly going to ask people to support us and to support our work. So I'd be grateful if you made a note of that, and you can, but unfortunately we don't have section, we don't have ATG as yet, so you won't get a tax break. But anything small or large will be very, very helpful. Thank you very much. That's it.
I'll encourage everybody to write your questions in the chat box, which you will find roughly in the center in the panel at the bottom. But meanwhile, there are already some questions, so let me ask you. Mr. Pradeep Kakkar, how inspiring, but given the apparent spurt in elephant deaths in North Bengal, do you think the changing profile of the tea garden owners has something to do with it, or are elephants being sacrificed to votes?
Goodness. Changing profile of tea garden owners. I don't think tea garden owners actually have any idea or very little idea of what is going on. So I wouldn't put the blame on tea garden owners. It's just, I think we have to recognize we're just too many people. And I mean, I've seen in my area how development has happened in the last 10 years. So forests have given away to paddy fields, and paddy fields have given away to construction, housing, factories. So yeah, so that's the. I mean, I would say development is the first is the reason that elephants are in the position that they're in, and I actually see tea gardens can play a very vital role if we actually come together, because you see there's fragmented forests, and connecting the fragmented forests are tea gardens, which in India today, apart from the army, is the only large area that you have left, which is remotely, which at least has some trees and some cover. So if we can convince tea garden owners to come together and help elephants, I think it would be fantastic, because we'll then have a large block of land which will be contiguous to and connecting forests. So where elephants can use, I mean, there's no other way. They're too big to support.
Which kind of leads on to the question asked by Dr. Julie Banerjee Mehta. How do you reach out to your fellow tea garden owners? You said that the tea garden next to yours was experiencing a number of accidents, so I assume it's not very smooth sailing.
Yeah, so I mean, elephants are very intimidating, right? Nobody thinks that you can be friends with an elephant. So I mean, it's like having a bunch of tigers in your room. If I don't want to show you photographs, but the kinds of the kind of violence that elephants also wreak on humans has been it's very frightening. So I don't blame people for being frightened and wanting elephants to go away and not wanting elephants to be there. But our experience has shown that we can coexist and that elephants aren't by nature aggressive, except for sometimes if one of the males are in musk, then you would have them being a little aggressive. But they're the most beautiful creatures on God's earth. So
Sharanjit Das, he has asked a number of questions, some of which you have answered already, such as how to support organizations like yours, and what are the precautions taken by you or your co-workers for a raging elephant. But here's some others which you might like to respond to. What are some of the best places or sanctuaries for elephants in the world?
in the world, I would say Africa. I mean, if you look at just the space that Africa has, it's just fantastic. So in fact, the reason I've been thinking the way I have about creating that large parcel of space, of physical space that elephants need, is from just seeing, if you see videos of elephants in Africa, and for most part, they just, they're very calm. And for the most part, they but in India, they're very stressed. So you see that, and you see, I mean, even in that beautiful video that I showed, you see the elephants were being chased. So they were rushing, and where do they rush? They rush to me, to Naxalbari. They don't go into the forest. They rush to us because they know that they're safe there. So they're that intelligent. And I really think that elephants can really help. The tea industry is dying, and we really need to think. Um, we need to think. We need to be smart about these things. And just like Africa has created smart tourism and tourism that can sustain its wildlife, we can actually think of doing that in tea gardens which are shutting down. They're just shutting down, and people are stealing wood. And but imagine that those tea gardens can serve as sanctuaries.
Right. Another question from Smita. Any particular reason when the elephants use, I think she means any particular reasons why the elephants use the corridors to cross over, and then they go back after what time?
It's safe. Naxalbari offers a safe space for them. So there, like I said, there are two forests on either side. And if they chase from one forest, and anyway, the forests are too small for them to be, for elephants, any elephants to be, even one elephant to be sustained beyond a point. There isn't enough forage for them. So that's why they have to move. And so when they move, they need safe space to move. They shouldn't be chased. They shouldn't be harassed.
I had a question of my own. From what it seems from your talk is that there's no opportunity cost to be paid for the work that you're doing, in the sense that you're saving the elephants. There's no economic loss involved. The community is involved, and so on and so forth. So given all this, why is the government or the forest department in particular not more supportive of you and of this kind of program all over the north, in fact?
Well, because our program is fairly new, right? I mean, like I said, everyone, when you talk about elephants, it's like, oh my God, elephants have come. And elephants do damage people's crops. That is true. So I don't blame the forest department, and I don't blame the farmers, but we have to find a way, and that's what we're trying to do by now. And what's wonderful is that the initiative didn't come from me, it came from the panchayat. So that means somebody is waking up and saying, oh my God, look, Naxalbari has had no deaths, touch wood, so far. It's been so many years. So we're doing something right, right? If the neighboring garden has 5 casualties in 4 years, and everywhere around is just a mess. So that's why I was really excited to work with these 3 villages, and to see whether we could actually engage. And then the next step is, of course, this has been something I've been thinking about for a long time, which is to have some kind of crop insurance. And you'd be surprised to know that the government of India doesn't have crop insurance, which covers wildlife depredation, whether it's elephants or even nilgai or something. I mean, it's ridiculous. They really should. You can't expect farmers to just give up on their livelihood. That's not reasonable.
Here's a question from Oroni, and it's in a slightly different direction, but still. Do you think we should do away with zoos in today's world? Many animals,
absolutely, we should,
including elephants, are trapped in such small areas. There's hardly any space, and it's like prison.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you something. I'm glad you brought it up, actually, because I've come to Calcutta after a long time, and I was driving by Alipur Zoo, and I was shocked. On it was a Sunday or a Saturday, and the crowds were shocking. I mean, this is a pandemic is on, and no one cared. They all wanted to see the animals, and this is our instinct. We love the outdoors. We love animals, but so we can't seem to make that connect, that we shouldn't be destroying. We shouldn't be destroying what we love. So absolutely, I think zoos don't have any place in the modern world, and they should go. And yeah.
Well, thank you for this incredible talk and some of those amazing videos and pictures. But can I call upon my colleague in the Library Subcommittee, Professor Choitali Moitro, to give the formal vote of thanks, please?
Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Yes,
it's time for me. Okay, good evening, everyone. The entire Library Committee and the chairpersons of Bengal Club Kolkata join me in thanking Sonia Jabbar for this wonderful talk. So, waking up to the issues of quote-unquote elephant lives matter, she has given us a soul and body dialogue and has shown a full-blown initiative to create a safer home for them. Thank you for this presentation. All of us stand wiser now. Thank you, the other participants and everybody who coordinated with the presentation. Goodbye and good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, Sonia. Thank you so much again.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.